Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another Burlingame. It's a small-town podcast sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. This is Mark Lucchese, also known as Mark at the Mic, and my guest today is Tom Simpson, one of the grandsons of David Whiteside Simpson, co-founder of Forsythe and Simpson's men's clothing on Burlingame Avenue. Forsythe and Simpson's was founded in 1917 and closed shop in 1984, just under 70 years in business. If you grew up in Burlingame during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you surely remember this iconic men's clothing store. And now my conversation with Tom Simpson. Tom Simpson, welcome to the show. Thanks
for having me.
Absolutely. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Facebook page, If You Ever Lived in Burlingame, ... Are you familiar with that at all?
No, because,
okay.
Man, there's more on Facebook that I don't know.
Me too.
I do.
But this is a great little Facebook page because you get all sorts of people posting memories of Burlingame. So while I was researching you the last week or so, I went to that particular page yesterday, if you grew up in Burlingame, blah, blah. And I said, hey, I need some help. I'm interviewing Tom Simpson tomorrow, which would be today. And I said, who remembers Simpson's men's clothing? Well, the comments came, and they came strong, and they came very nice, okay? So I selected 3 of the ones that came in to read, and so we could reminisce a little bit, right?
Sure, okay.
All right, so here goes the first one. My dad purchased all his clothing at Simpson's. They would always special order his shoes and slippers as he had a very thin foot. That was one, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Talking service there. Another one, Simpson's was my go-to store for my clothes growing up. Many fond memories of the great service and quality clothes. Pretty cool, right? I think so. Third one, my mother always shopped at Simpson's for my father and my 3 brothers. It was a store with class and wonderful personal service. I mean, those are 3 of the many compliments that came through, Tom. But I just wanted to open with that. So
that was kind of the feeling of retail in those days.
It was,
and we were just on the cusp of, there goes that style of retail.
Yeah,
it's disappearing.
It disappeared.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a little bit left, but not much. Not like it was. Yeah. That's for sure. So I'm going to go a little bit into your family history, and you kind of guide me if I have some things miscued here.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
So your grandfather, David Whiteside Simpson, along with his best friend, John Forsythe, was the best friend?
Business partner. Let's leave that.
Okay.
I know that's the only part that I know. I can't comment because John was gone long before I was on the planet.
Okay. So for right now, I've referred to him as best friend or business friend.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So they arrived in Burlingame around 1917 from North Ireland?
No, they arrived in Burlingame from their previous jobs in the U.S. They both emigrated around the turn of the century and mostly went to Chicago, and from there everybody split. And they ended up in Oakland working in what's called the dry goods business, fabric and upholstery and whatnot.
So they were doing dry goods and upholstery, not men's clothing.
Correct. They were waiting for their opportunity, and they saw a business in Burlingame that was for sale, and they came over and said, oh, great, we'll take this one.
So they came from Ireland, though, with the intention of opening a men's clothing store eventually, or what?
No,
they were just businessmen?
They were just businessmen. My grandfather was one of 8 boys in the family.
Yeah.
Only the oldest was going to have anything to do with the family farm. So all 7 of them went to Chicago. Uncle John went to Detroit. Uncle Bob went to St. Louis. Uncle Tom went to Iowa because he was a farmer and he was going to stay a farmer by gun. And my grandfather came out west, and he was going to look for work. He was educated enough to get something to go into business and to understand running a business.
How old were they when they came from Ireland? Any idea?
Early 20s.
Early 20s.
Yeah.
Were they when they came? Were they married or
Unmarried.
So they got married when they came to the States.
Yeah.
So you said they were in Oakland and they came to Burlingame because they saw a business for sale.
A business opportunity.
And that would probably be 1917 then when they opened the business? Okay.
Yep.
So they opened it in 1917.
Yep.
Where was the location? Where it would presently stayed the whole time, or did they move around?
So on Burlingame Avenue.
Right.
I don't know the number. Is the 1200 block. Do you remember where Round Table Pizza was?
Yeah. Oh, so it was down at the farther end, or
That was their
east end,
building.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, East End, a couple of houses away from Lurton.
So that was the original site.
Yep.
And did they move more than once?
Nope. They stayed in business there until 1924 when their, ironically, 1294 Burlingame Avenue was their structure that they built for themselves.
That's where it was for the till 1984, correct?
The classic building.
Yeah. All right. Your grandfather David and John, they lived on Howard Avenue for a while when they came here?
No, just my grandfather.
Just your grandfather.
Yeah.
So your grandfather lived on Howard, not John.
Correct.
All right.
I don't know where John lived. They lived in the 600 block of Howard, just down from, as my dad referred to it, Howard Avenue School.
Yeah, which was Washington School. Became right.
Yep.
All right. So from there, he went over to Ralston Avenue, right? Mm-hmm. And then eventually, they built homes kitty corner from each other on Chapin Lane.
Chapin Lane. Yeah.
Yeah, that's must have been some pretty good money in the clothing business back then.
Retail was different back then, which my dad and I, when we were running the business, discovered. Those guys, they could sell out their basic inventory, because what did men wear those days? Black suit, white shirt, black shoes. There was none of the enormous inventory that we had to carry.
Yeah.
In terms of colors and fabrics. So they would just sell on Saturday, get their list of, here's the shortages. We got to get some 38 regulars and some 42 longs. Go up to the city, and that's where all of the manufacturers were located. Pick up what they needed, come home, sell it out.
So, like I said, did they have any experience in the clothing business? None at all. None in Ireland, none when they came to the States. They just were two businessmen, and they were going to do this thing.
And there was on-the-job training.
Yeah, on-the-job training. Okay. What year was that? Was that 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, and all of that happened?
No, 1917. They had an existing business that they just took over.
Yeah, okay.
And so they had an existing inventory, and they could get introduced to all the manufacturers up in the city and carry on from there.
When they had their homes built on Chapin Lane, what year was that? Do you have any idea?
Yep, 35.
35.
Yeah.
And did they continue to live there for the duration, or did they move from there?
I don't know about the Forsythe family, but they moved, let's see. They came back from this long trip, going back to Ireland the first time in 50 years. And on the way back, my aunt and my grandma came down with jaundice.
Oh, boy.
So they came home on the boat, took the train across town, and they had to get a new house. Literally, it was on one level, no stairs, no steps.
Right.
So they built a house on Edge Court in Hillsborough.
Okay.
Because that was, good, nice, level place.
Yeah.
And they stayed there for about 10 years.
The homes that that John and your grandfather had built on Chapin Lane, are they still there? Or have they been remodeled or leveled?
Still both there and still in original exterior shape. I don't know what the interior is like.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You know, you answered a question for me. I was going to ask you, what kind of clothing did they sell? Basically, it was just black suits.
In the olden days, sure. And then as fashions changed,
they added
with that in. You're wearing a blue shirt? Whoa,
yeah.
Dude, fashion forward.
Right.
And anything like that.
Yeah.
All of the colors and the materials changed. They started selling Levi's. It was a big Boy Scout uniform center as well.
Yeah, I bought my first Cub Scout uniform there, now that you mention that.
Yeah.
When they were here, when they opened shop in 1917, were there any other clothiers in town, or that you know?
No, I think
so they kind of ran the avenue, I guess.
Robert Gates came in later.
He came later,
but that was a real different customer base.
Yeah. What about Levy Brothers? Do you remember when they came along by any chance?
They were there a long time, like about contemporary with them, but
Yeah.
I don't know how much men's clothing they sold.
Right.
They may have sold sportswear, like pants and shirts and
Yeah.
casual wear, but not dress suits.
Did you sell and I can't remember, but where did we get the salt and pepper pants
Oh, for
and the white shirts for St. Catherine's? That was you guys, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Salt and pepper is a good
Isn't it the way
description.
to?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I didn't know what else to call them. They were so hot in the summer or the warm, when we got the warm weather. Oh my God, they were unbelievable. So, your grandfather and John were partners until 1956.
Yeah.
That's the correct date. That's almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then the partnership sort of dissolved. All right. Was that separation of a partnership, was it kind of slow and a friendly one, or was there a little bit of something happened there? Was there a falling out, I guess is the word I want?
There must have been. I don't know.
Okay. Are you saying I don't
Nobody
know
ever
because you don't
talked.
want to answer here, or
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Okay.
It was. I started working there in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Or I started working there on grad night after high school, and my dad said, "Yeah, I don't care what time you come in from grad night, but the store opens at 9 o'clock tomorrow.
You had to come in the next day.
You're going to be there."
Yeah.
But I
So what happened to John after the John Forsythe? What happened after the partnership dissolved? Did he just stay in the area? Do you have any idea?
retired. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else, what other activities they may have had.
Okay.
I'm
All
just
right.
not aware.
So we're going to forget about John for now then, all right? We might come back and visit him later, but for now, after the business dissolved, or the partnership dissolved, we're going to enter your dad, Robert, right?
Yeah.
And had served as a gunnery officer in World War II,
Yeah.
all right?
He was on a tanker, so he had a lot of jobs.
Yeah. He came home and he started his own clothing business in Palo Alto in the early 1950s. But later he came back to Burlingame to run the store because of the dissolvement of the partnership, right? I think he came here in, 1958? 56.
Yeah, we moved residents from Palo Alto in 1958.
Okay.
That's kind of when, okay, this is going to work.
Yeah.
56 is let's try it out. Let's see if you can work with your dad, which is always, in any business, that's a huge succession issue.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anybody interested in carrying on the family business? Right. Am I interested in any of these kids carrying that on?
So he came and started in 56, but moved in 58
Right.
to Willow Avenue in Burlingame, 1616 Willow Avenue.
Yep.
That's terrific. But he packed up his family. I think you had a family of five. You have 5 brothers?
4 brothers.
4 brothers and 1 sister.
1 sister, yeah.
Gosh, that's great. Do you ever are you still close with the family, with the brothers and sisters?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're still all alive and all of that good stuff?
No casualties to date.
Great.
Which doesn't mean jack, but I'm the second oldest. I'm almost 76.
Right.
My older brother's going
He's
to be
my
77.
age. Yeah.
So
Do they live in the area?
None of my sister lives in San Mateo. 2 brothers live in Sanger down near what is that? Fresno.
Okay.
And then one brother and his wife live in Palm Springs.
Yeah. Besides yourself, did any of them work at the store as well?
Mm-hmm. Brother Bob, he was number 3.
Yeah.
He worked in the store for a couple of years in the mid-70s.
Yeah. Okay. So you come here in 58, and all of you went to McKinley Elementary School.
Yep.
Burlingame Intermediate School,
Yep.
and Burlingame High School.
Yep.
That's great.
Right on.
Your dad went on to run the business until 1984 when the business closed, right?
Yeah.
What was the reason why it closed? I mean, it was a well-known store. It was busy and all that good stuff. How come it closed?
The last time the rent was going to be adjusted was the killer. And that's because it was a new owner.
Yep.
We could never buy the business, the store building from the Forsythe family.
Okay.
That's just not going to happen. And so the new owner said, okay, here's Burlingame Avenue rent. Here you go, guys. You want to sign up for 5 more years? And my dad and I looked at that and said, No, because then we're not working for ourselves at all.
Right.
We're just working to pay a significantly larger rent.
So the building was owned by the Forsythes.
Correctly.
Interesting. Okay. How old was your dad in '84? Do you remember, give or take?
Oh, yeah. 64.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he actually retire, or did he go to work for somebody else for a while? That was it.
He retired.
Okay.
Pulled the plug.
Pulled the plug. Okay.
Yeah. He had a wife with benefits.
Yeah.
So she could,
Yeah.
health benefits? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm ready to stay home and rest.
Yeah. So, during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I'm going to test your memory here. You mentioned the high-end place. I'm blanking
Robert Gates.
Thank you, Robert Gates.
Yeah.
Were there any other men's clothing stores in Burlingame, San Mateo, or on the peninsula that you would consider competition or anything like that?
Or contemporary, sure. Schneider's in San Mateo. Walt Schneider was a contemporary of all those guys. In fact, when one of their top salespersons retired from them, he came to work for us part-time.
Okay.
And that was one of Ray Sloan's relatives, his uncle, Sam Hagen.
Ray Sloan. Okay, okay.
Oh, did I beat you to the punch?
No, we're going to get there in a minute because I was just going to ask you about Ray. But anyway, besides Snyder's, was there anybody else? Was there anybody in Millbrae or because I can't remember myself. It was just Simpsons.
I don't remember anyone.
We all
else.
went to Simpsons.
Well, you know where you went? Montgomery Ward's, Sears.
No,
Macy's.
my mom would not venture out of Burlingame.
Well, but that's where lots of people
Yeah.
would go shopping.
Yeah, no, she was strictly a Simpsons gal.
Yeah.
Leaving Brothers too for whatever, but and then for herself, probably Joseph Magnet, I Magnet for ladies.
Yeah.
San Mateo, right?
City of Paris.
Yeah, City of Paris, right. All right, so you mentioned Ray, and many of us who shopped at Simpsons certainly remember Ray. He was so friendly, and he was helpful. He remembered your name. He remembered your sizes. You know what I mean? He could match you up, right? And Ray was actually like a Saturday customer of mine when I was at Petrini Markets.
Oh, yeah?
In San Mateo for the longest time before I moved on from there. Whatever happened to Ray?
Ray went into property assessment. He became a real estate assessor.
Okay.
And still lived in the same location just behind Hillsdale.
Yeah.
His daughter became an architect, but Ray's not with us anymore.
Yeah. How
He's
long
older.
ago? Do you have any idea?
Less than 10 years.
Yeah. He was terrific. He worked for you guys for a long time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He came over after the war and was probably there for probably 30 years, if not more than that.
Was he Irish or British?
He was very Irish.
Yeah. Okay.
He came from North Ireland, just like Sam Hagen did, just like Grandpa and John Forsythe.
Right.
They were not from the Republic. They were from the 6 counties up north.
Great. Okay. So you worked at the family store, and help me with the dates again here, from 1974 to 84 until closing.
Yep.
All right. So I experienced a closing twice. My parents closed Jim Super on Primrose, and we closed Cappuccino Market in Millbrae. Same thing, lease issues, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't buy the building. It was a sad time for our family. It had to be a sad time for you guys. You guys had a long legacy.
We did, but except for my dad and I, there was not a lot of impact. All of my brothers and sister had independent lives, families, etc.
Right.
They were not. They had there's the legacy because oh God, Dad, you keep everything. You went and got the old signs from the store, and they're in your backyard or they're in the driveway, etc. You keep all that stuff, and. It was just probably we were the ones who had the most impact. He got to retire. Sorry, kid, you're going to have to keep working another 30 years.
Yeah, it's going to go on, and we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I live here in Burlingame. You live in Burlingame, and we're both close to where we sort of our parents worked. Okay, so when you're going down Burlingame Avenue and you look at Toppers, don't you flash back once in a while and think back to those days?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because I do when our store was over with Citibank on Howard and Primrose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
the old Purity store.
Right, across the street from Purity. There was Jim Super, Purity, and Safeway. I cannot shake Safeway no matter what I do. Anyway.
It's all within your DNA.
I turn on that Primrose to come to the library like here, and I always think back to those days when my parents were there, and they were good days, but it was sad leaving that. So, but anyway, we're going to leave sadness, all right?
Yeah.
All right. So, you graduated from Burlingame High in 1967.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, you worked from 74 to 84. Tell us a little bit about the journey after high school. Where did life take Tom Simpson after high school?
I spent the first year out of school up in Chico, going to Chico State College then.
Right.
When it was 6,000 students.
Yeah.
I only lasted there for a year.
Can I ask you why you chose Chico?
Because I got in. I applied.
But
they said, come on.
I know, but there was lots of schools, a lot of state schools to apply to. You could have applied to, okay, that's all right.
And that happened next because Chico was too much of a party school for me.
It had always had that kind of a label, I think, yeah.
So I went to San Francisco State for the next 4 years and got there just when Sam Hayakawa took office.
Yeah.
And big 4 years of big uproars all
He
the
was
time.
the president, right? Was that? Yeah, he was the president.
Yep.
Okay. And that was during a lot of, that was protest time.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Okay.
And I was there until about October of 71.
All right.
And left school to get married. So had to keep working. I worked for the post office 6 days a week.
Here in Burlingame or San Mateo? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my scholarship. They gave me money and said, here's for whatever you want to do, buy a car, put it on the ponies, but we need you to come and pay for that by working, I think it was 5 hours.
So you graduated from San Francisco State is what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
I graduated from Burlingame High School. That's my only graduation.
All right, great. But you went to, I get it, Chico and then San Francisco State. Then you went on to the post office, you got married and all that good stuff. All right.
Then I went in the Army for 21 months, and when I got out there, I had GI Bill, so I went back to CSM for 3 more semesters.
Right. And then what?
Work.
What kind of work?
I was still at the store.
Okay. That's right, till 84.
Yeah, I had to.
All right.
When I got out of the Army, I had that GI Bill money for school.
Yeah.
And that was good for about half of expenses in life. And then when first baby came along, okay, full-time work now, no fooling around. You gotta get going.
And that's when you went back to the store for 10 years. Yeah. Okay, the store is done in 84. What happened?
After that?
Yeah.
One of the racers on my team, Brad Lansill, his dad worked for a furniture company down in San Jose, and literally he had been a customer in the store, and he came in and asked me, "What are you planning on doing now the store's closing?" I'm looking for a job. You got any?
All right.
As a matter of fact, why don't you come down and talk to my sales manager? So I sold furniture, commercial office furniture, in San Jose for a year, and took the train down. And that's when I was still riding a lot. So I'd ride down El Camino and San Jose in the morning, early morning, get cleaned up at the YMCA, and then go to work. But after a year, it was just too much time commuting. So I took a job in the same field, commercial office furniture, up in the city, and stayed in the city doing that work for the next 29 years.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take the train to the city? Did you drive to the city? What was?
I was in sales and in project management. I needed a car every day because I was going to both sales calls as well as we had installations to manage. Had to be there on site.
Yeah, you mentioned riding, bike riding. Mm-hmm. You were very much of a enthusiastic, I don't know what the proper word here is, but you love to race, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
That was coming out of the Army?
Yes.
Were you racing prior to the Army? Were you racing in high school or anything like that?
No.
So how did the bug come around? How did the racing bug come about?
Went down to bike shop in Menlo Park, operated by these English guys, and I was just buying a normal, everyday, hey, let's go for a bike ride kind of bike, and went in there and were doing all of the sales stuff and wrote up my name, and Tom Simpson in England, former world champion, Tour de France star, just about made these two guys sit down and sweat. And they said, no, that's my name. Look, here's my license. So they introduced me to world competitive cycling.
Yeah.
And the bug was bit, man.
Were you married at that time?
Yeah.
Okay. Was your wife into it too?
My wife suffered years and years and years of going to a variety of events all around Northern California until about the year 2000, when all of a sudden she got the payoff. Said, Beck, the company has made enough money. We're going over to France so we can do some research.
Right.
And we did. Would you like to come along? Oh. Yeah, so then she got 20 years of payback.
Wow.
Of head going with us to races.
So you must have done some. Did you do any racing in France?
No. I was. My active racing career was only about 3 years. 74 to 77.
So racing, were they sprints or long distance racing or a variety? Talk to me about what a race was.
Okay, both. Short distance criteriums, that's kind of race around the corners.
That's it. And we'll talk about it. You've kind of founded the Burlingame Criterium.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's mine.
All right, so tell me what a criterium is. Criterium, right?
Yeah, it's a multi-lap race of a short circuit. Usually they're less than a mile long, and maybe you'll do 10 or 15 laps as an amateur. And as a national class rider or a professional, you'll do 35 to 40 of those laps. And obviously the winner is whoever comes across the finish line first after all those laps. But there's all kinds of special sprint laps where you can get special prize for winning just one lap. And that doesn't do you any good for the finish. You still got to come in
first.
Got to come in first.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did this in Burlingame, I think. Was it 1976?
Mm-hmm. Bicentennial year. Yep.
Yeah. Did you chart? I remember going to those things. They were actually a lot of fun. They were through the streets of Burlingame.
Downtown.
Around the library here.
Yep. Down Lorton.
Yeah.
Up to Howard.
Was there a straightaway? Where was the longest straightaway?
Oh, literally from Stack's Corner.
Yeah.
Up to the intersection of Howard and Lorton.
Yeah. And it seemed to me they would run, I don't know, till maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you would have like maybe the novices or the beginners would start early, right?
7:30.
Each heat or each race, better racers, quicker, etc.
More experience, more experience. Skill. Yep.
Was there money involved in this, or was it amateur racing? Was it?
They were all amateur. We had merchandise prizes that we handed out.
Yeah. So was that part of your responsibility as the founder of the Criterium to go get the prizes?
Oh, yeah. to knock on the doors of all the merchants in Burlingame, period.
Yeah.
We don't care if it's Broadway or the Plaza.
How many years did that last?
Let's see, I think I did that originally 76, 3 years, and then had to get other jobs instead. And that race went on a hiatus. And the guys at the Burlingame Bike Shop, where Ricky's used to be.
I know. Summit Bike? Did it go Summit Bike?
Yeah, they reintroduced it.
Right.
And that was about 87, I think. And that ran another 30 years until Burlingame. The people who use those streets, 365, that is the priority. So when all of the intersections got improved,
right,
which meant that some of the intersections got much narrower, huge boon for pedestrian traffic, which
Right.
is what those are for. That meant no, we couldn't race.
That was sort of the death.
That was that chopped it.
What do you remember? What year that was, give or take?
2015 maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. They were fun, and they got good crowds.
Well, we had at the very end of that, like the last 10 years, there was a special kids ride that attracted
I remember that.
hundreds.
Yes.
And these are children. These are like 5 and under.
We would donate to that. I do remember that. Absolutely.
That was a big portion
Yeah.
of that event.
So you mentioned to me that you squeezed in a little time on the weekends to work for promoters on stage across the country. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
As a commentator, to let them know, okay, there's 13 laps to go, and here comes
this was
Joe Jones.
all about the bike racing.
Bike racing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you might notice that, see these things up here?
Yeah.
Called hearing aids?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
part of that was from our youth, Mark, when we used to go up to Fillmore and
Right.
Family
Listen to all those
Dog
great bands.
and stand too close
Yeah.
to the big
I
speakers.
can never think anything's going to go wrong.
then I compounded that with M16 rifle
yeah.
fire and it was unprotected in those days. We didn't have muffs.
Right.
And the last 20 years was working on stage with, great big booming speakers above and behind me.
Yeah.
So that kind of.
So you did that for quite a while, I guess, right?
Yeah,
And then what, in 2002, you and your son, Alec, created your own production company.
Yes.
Because you learned so much from these things, I guess you just said, we can do this ourselves, right? Is that
no.
how that worked?
Oh, it's the ego speaking. We can do a better job than these bozos.
Yeah.
Come on, yeah, we can. We know how to do it.
Yeah.
And we did.
So you put on races. Mm-hmm. Where were these things held? I know you had them on the peninsula, but where?
Coyote Point was one of our very favorite locations, and we had excellent connections with the rangers out there because they are the first ones we have to get permission from. Just like racing in Burlingame, I had to go down and talk to Fred Palmer,
Right,
chief
the
of police,
chief at that time.
and convince him that we could operate this thing safely.
And he said, watch out for the drunks on Lorton Avenue or something.
He said they go home at 2, but they are back at 6. And there's a lot of working men's bars.
That's
on
back
Lorton.
in the day when we had a lot of bars in Burlingame versus the restaurants.
Yes, sir.
That's funny.
Transition.
So you mentioned Coyote Point for a lot of the races. But did you race around give me an idea where the race started and ended.
It started right near the beach, down at the base of the hill.
Yeah.
And then we ran up to the top of the eucalyptus hills, and then back down.
So wait, it went up those hills?
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty good climb.
Then it came back and raced on the beach because there was still some sandy beach left.
Right.
And that's real fun to dig in through your bike, and go back down to where the big towers are, the power towers. That would be the far end, and then return for one lap.
How many laps would you do on something like that? I guess it depends, or what?
Yeah, it depends because we did ours on time, and depending upon the eligibility of the athletes as to which category they belong to.
Right.
In the end, they might race for 45 minutes.
How did you make money on that? Through entry fees or what?
Oh, combination. Entry fees help take care of the daily operations, but the rest of it, sponsorship. We wanted to convince businesses, you want to link up with us? Here's our name. We're selling our name. We run a good activity. We've got continuing to build in numbers. So we got up to probably average about 600 racers at a time.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, and then you want people to say, yes, I want to be right next to your finish line.
Right.
Yeah.
So besides Coyote Point, can you give me a couple other places you might have raced at?
Yeah. Sierra Point up in Brisbane.
Okay.
Right near the marina. Candlestick Point, opposite the stadium.
Right. What sort of hoops did you have to jump through to reserve those places? Did you have to talk to each city manager or chief of police or?
Yes. Brisbane, we went to quite a few city council meetings, And I can tell you, after sitting through those council meetings, I would never, ever submit myself to being a member. Candlestick was state park, so that's primarily the state park applications.
Would they charge you an upfront fee, though? Or?
Oh yeah. Ooh, big time.
Yeah.
It's primarily we have to have enough confidence that you are going to treat our property in a respectful manner, so that the day after you go home, the state park and the city park, all of that is still here in good shape for our citizens to use. And a lot of our competitors in the business could not believe that. They never got over that. They said, well, they have to know that we're going to wreck the place. Big deal. Yeah. And they were one and done.
Was the race primarily a Saturday and a Sunday? So would you be in County Point on Saturday and up at Sierra Point on Sunday, or was it a weekend affair?
Weekend affair. It took us an entire day to prepare the course, and then Sunday was the event itself.
Yeah. Are any of these things still going on? Any of these bike races? I never hear about them. That's why I'm asking. You always hear about running races, right? 5K, 10K, blah, blah, blah. No more. Are there any bike races around?
Bike races are much more difficult to operate these days. Liability insurance, very expensive now.
Yeah.
The races that are being held are distant. They're maybe 50, 60 miles out in the valley, up north beyond Santa Rosa, in the country, because there are no street races left on the peninsula that I know of.
Right. And you participated, you actually raced yourself, you said, for about 3 years?
Yeah.
What happened? You just burned out, or what? Aches and pains? Or
it takes.
Or do you get to a certain age and you just can't do it anymore?
Time. I didn't have time to train.
Yeah.
To be competitive at that point, because I was nowhere near a pro, is probably a matter of 12 to 15 hours of training a week. And no, I got to go to work.
Yeah,
got to have a job, do all those things, have babies now.
Yeah.
So, there was no room left to be a big time bike racer.
You ever get on a bicycle now and just drive around Burlingame, ride around Burlingame?
When I go for a ride now, I go over the Broadway Rosalie O'Mahony Bridge.
Yeah.
And get out there and get on the bike path and go out San Mateo Bridge and back.
That's fun. If you catch it before the wind comes up, it's a good ride.
It's very important to know when.
That wind can just stand you up out there, man.
In the summertime, it's a morning ride because there's no tailwind coming home.
Yeah.
It's only headwind.
Yeah. All right, so you graduated, like I said. I'm going to go in reverse here just for a moment because we're getting close to the end. You graduated from Burlingame High, like I said, in '67. Mm-hmm. Your dad had the great shop on the Avenue. What are some of your memories of Burlingame Avenue or Burlingame in general as a junior and senior in high school at Burlingame High?
When I worked at the store, this would be after I got home, there was no evening or Sunday business. It was totally, okay, let's go home. It's 6 o'clock, and go home and get the cannons out because you can shoot a cannonball down Burlingame Avenue.
Yeah. Was the store closed on Sundays?
Yeah.
Yeah. 6 days a week it was open, right?
6 days a week. We were opened late on Thursday night. And so What
was late, like 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and I don't know if that was a business decision or just a cultural decision that,
right.
Well, we've always been open Thursday. We could look at the books and see if we made enough money to pay for that.
Yeah.
But I remember going to dinner. Everybody in the store went to dinner. We, split shifts so we could go. You went to the 5 o'clock, you're at the 6 o'clock. We used to go to Denmark House.
Oh, gosh, that was
next to the library.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was, and then there was a deli.
That would be Danello's?
Yes, on Lorton Avenue.
Right on Lorton.
That was another place where we could, and that's about it. North China Inn.
Yeah, where was that? I know the name, I remember.
It was on Burlingame Avenue, about where burrito place is now.
Okay.
I can't think of their name.
Right.
Darn it.
Yeah.
But those were in the days when, oh, you're going home? What are you going to have for dinner at your house? Nobody went out for dinner.
Yeah.
Going out for dinner? Birthday,
You went
special
home,
occasion.
right? You went home, and
Yeah.
now you see the Avenue. It's packed.
Yeah.
It's packed.
There's a lot of business there.
There's a lot of business, man.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Did I miss anything before we wrap this up? Is there anything that you'd like to say in case I missed something? I think we tried to cover some history, good history, and of course, the life and times of Tom Simpson as well. So, how many children do you have?
I have 3.
And obviously, they're all grown and married, I guess.
And one of them actually lives in Burlingame. Oh, he's the only.
That is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no. Well, he's a corporate attorney.
Oh, wonderful.
So is his wife.
Oh, okay.
So they live not on the side of El Camino that he grew up on.
Yeah.
They live up.
Oh, yeah. We get that, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an East Sider
Other
too.
side.
So yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how growing up it didn't really matter, but it's become a big deal. So so that's funny, man.
Different time, man.
Yeah. How many grandchildren do you have?
7.
Wow. So the obviously the ones that live here in Burlingame you see. What about the other kids? Are they in reasonably good proximity?
They are going to be going to the little big game on the other side. They live in San Mateo.
San Mateo.
Oh,
Bearcat country.
Oh, you said that word.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been fun having you here today.
Thanks.
Tom Simpson, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Tom Simpson, one of the grandsons of David Whiteside Simpson, co-founder of Forsythe and Simpson's men's clothing on Burlingame Avenue, for being my guest today on Burlingame. It's a small town, sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. Thanks to my minister of podcasts, Mike Nagler, video by the great Ray Tyler, my director of marketing, Adrian Kwok Lucchese, original music by Bray. You can hear more at braymusic.com. This episode was produced and directed by Shelby Lucchese and recorded on Friday, February 21st, 2025 at the Burlingame Public Library. The Burlingame Historical Society copyrights this podcast, and no part can be copied and replayed without the written consent of the Burlingame Historical Society. And before I close out, be sure to look for my next episode of a Mark at the Mic podcast, the podcast that takes you outside the city limits of Burlingame. My guest will be Don Dalia, the owner of Dalia Construction. So until next time, everyone, see you around Burlingame. It's a small town.